Welcome to the Book Nook. We are so glad you are here with us for another deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Usually when we hand someone our wallet, there is this very specific, almost instinctual moment of panic.
Oh, absolutely. It's a deeply private thing.
Right. You've got your driver's license in there, your credit cards, maybe a few crumpled receipts from like 3 months ago.
Your cash, too. I
Yeah.
mean, it is basically your entire life, your identity, and your security all just packed tightly into this tiny leather square.
Exactly. Giving that to a total stranger feels incredibly vulnerable.
For most people, letting someone look through their wallet is, well, it's way more intrusive than letting someone look through their bedroom.
Yeah, I totally agree. But okay, imagine you are at a high-end social gathering. You meet a total stranger, a woman you have never spoken to before, and within minutes, she asks to look inside your wallet.
Which is wild.
Right. And she doesn't just, casually glance at your ID or count the 20s. She literally pulls out every single bill. She holds them up to the light, evaluates each one meticulously, and starts checking to see if they are smiling or crying.
Which completely shatters how we are taught to interact with currency.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is such a bizarre concept.
It really is. We are raised to think of money as cold, hard math. It's a binary system. You either have the funds or you don't.
Yeah, $20 bill is just a $20 bill.
Exactly. But in that one interaction, we are suddenly looking at a financial landscape that isn't mathematical at all. It is entirely emotional.
So in this deep dive, we're figuring out what kind of energy is living inside your bank account right now. We are exploring the concepts from a phenomenal book called Happy Money, The Japanese Art of Making Peace with Your Money by Ken Honda.
It's such a great book.
It really is. And to understand how profound this idea of smiling money is, we really have to look at who Ken Honda is, because he isn't some esoteric mystic living on a mountain somewhere.
No, not at all. He comes in the belly of the beast. And that's what grounds this entire philosophy.
Mm.
Ken Honda was a highly successful, deeply entrenched financial consultant.
Like corporate stuff.
Yeah. He ran his own accounting and consulting business, dealing with hard numbers, corporate tax structures, profit margins, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
He was so incredibly successful in that traditional capitalist framework that he actually retired at the age of 29 to stay home and raise his newborn daughter.
Which is the dream, right? I mean, that's the finish line everyone is sprinting toward.
Totally.
But his second act, the thing that actually made him a global phenomenon, came from a completely mundane moment.
Yeah, the park story.
Right. He's at a park one day simply watching his daughter play, and he sees another mother and daughter nearby. But they aren't playing, they are fighting.
Such a common scene, too.
It is. The mother is visibly stressed, hurried, practically dragging her crying kid away from the playground because she has to rush off to a job. And Honda has this profound, life-altering epiphany. He realizes that even though he, won the money game, millions of people are suffering daily because of their relationship with money.
He realizes he wants to help people struggling to make ends meet, to alleviate that specific, suffocating financial pain.
So he goes home and writes a short essay about his thoughts on wealth and happiness. Just a simple essay to hand out to friends.
And then fast forward a bit, and the demand for his perspective becomes so overwhelming that he ends up writing over 50 books.
50 books? That is insane.
I know. And selling 8 million copies in Japan alone. He becomes widely known as the Zen millionaire.
Which brings us right back to the mysterious wallet woman at the party. After all of that success, after writing all those books and supposedly mastering the art of wealth, Honda meets this woman. She sorts through his bills, murmuring to herself, like, this one's good, this one's okay, and then hands the wallet back, telling him that his money is smiling. When I first read that, my immediate reaction was, what does a smiling $20 bill even look like? Is it crisp? Is it folded a certain way?
Well, it has absolutely nothing to do with the physical condition of the paper.
Right.
The foundational synthesis of Honda's work is a concept that is, well, it's very difficult for Western minds to grasp initially. Money is energy.
Money is energy. Okay.
Yeah. And like all energy in the universe, it is conductive. It absorbs the emotions of how it was given and how it was received.
Wow.
If a transaction occurs out of guilt, anger, or sadness, the money is crying. It carries a heavy negative charge.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if it's given out of love, gratitude, or happiness, the money is smiling. It is imbued with a positive, buoyant energy.
So our mission today is to help you, the listener, figure out if the money flowing through your life is smiling or crying.
Exactly.
We're going to dive deep into the emotional baggage we all inevitably attach to our finances, and more importantly, we're going to explore the actual mechanics of how you can transform your daily transactions.
From rent to coffee.
Yes, everything from paying your monthly rent to buying a cup of coffee. How to turn that into a source of deep joy and abundance.
To do that, we first have to understand that this energy manifests in two very distinct flows. Every single one of us is currently living in a stream of either happy money or unhappy money.
And there's very little middle ground, right?
Right. Almost none.
So what does happy money actually look like in practice? Because it sounds a bit, abstract.
Sure. Honda defines happy money as money that is circulated with love, care, and friendship.
Okay, give me an example.
Think of the 10-year-old kid who saves up his allowance for weeks to buy a bouquet of flowers for his mom on Mother's Day.
Oh, I love that.
That money is practically vibrating with joy. Or it's the parents who gladly pinch pennies,
Yeah.
skipping their own luxuries so they can afford to send their kid to a summer soccer camp they've been dreaming about.
Yeah, or like the money you donate to a disaster relief fund, knowing it's going to help someone rebuild their life.
Exactly. Or the money you happily, enthusiastically hand over to a contractor because they did a phenomenal, respectful job renovating your kitchen.
Oh, that's a good one. Finding a good contractor is a miracle anyway.
Right. In all of these instances, the exchange feels light. There's a sense of expansion in your chest when you spend it.
Okay, so unhappy money, conversely, is money circulated in frustration, anger, sadness, or despair.
Yes.
Think about the physical tension in your jaw when you grudgingly pay a massive, unexpected tax bill.
The worst.
Or the sheer toxic resentment involved in paying alimony to an ex-spouse after a really ugly, drawn-out divorce. That money is definitely crying.
Oh, absolutely sobbing. And it's not just money going out. It's money coming in, too.
Wait, really? Unhappy money coming in?
Yeah. It's receiving your biweekly salary for a job that you absolutely despise, where every dollar feels like a direct compromise of your dignity and your soul.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Or it's the money you are forced to use to pay off high-interest credit cards for purchases you don't even remember making.
You can physically feel the difference just talking about it. Unhappy money feels heavy, restrictive, and suffocating.
It really does. But what's fascinating here is Honda's observation that the quantity of the money has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of its energy.
That is such a huge point to emphasize. We just naturally assume that if you have millions, your money must be happy.
It is a total fallacy.
Yeah.
Both the incredibly wealthy and the deeply impoverished can be completely trapped in the flow of unhappy money.
Wait, so a billionaire can have unhappy money?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
You can have a billionaire who is absolutely miserable. They might be paralyzed by the fear of losing their wealth.
Like constantly looking over their shoulder.
Exactly. Paranoid about market crashes, trying to keep up with other billionaires,
Yeah.
and hoarding their resources in a state of constant defense.
Wow.
That massive fortune they sit on, it is profoundly unhappy money. It is a fortress built of anxiety.
Okay, I hear that, but I have to play devil's advocate for a second. We live in the real world. Paying bills is inherently annoying. Nobody wakes up on the first of the month, looks at their rent check, and says, oh boy, I am so filled with love and light that I get to hand over a third of my income today.
Their point.
It feels like a stretch to say we can magically make our electric bill feel like a joyful donation to charity.
Well, it's not about magic, It's about a deliberate psychological shift in perspective.
How so?
When you pay that electric bill and you feel resentment, because your brain is entirely focused on the deduction. You are looking at your bank balance going down.
Right, I'm losing money.
Exactly, and that is a textbook scarcity mindset. You feel like something is being taken from you. But what if you actively shifted your focus to what that money is exchanging?
You mean focusing on the actual electricity?
Yes, you are paying for the light that allows you to read to your kids at night. You are paying for the heat that keeps your family from freezing in January, or the refrigerator that keeps my food from spoiling. Right. When you shift your focus from the loss of the money to the immense value of the service provided, the energy of the transaction fundamentally changes.
Yeah.
You aren't losing money. You are trading it for comfort and survival.
Okay, listening to this, it almost feels like trying to navigate a city's plumbing system.
Oh, I like that.
Like, if the source of the water is toxic, the whole system is poisoned. It doesn't matter how big your house is or if you have solid gold faucets in your bathroom. If your money is flowing through a pipe of resentment, fear, and obligation, it's going to taste bitter no matter how much of it you drink.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. And we can actually trace the psychology of this back to the work of Dr. Gerald Jampolsky.
Oh, the love versus fear guy.
Exactly.
Mm.
He wrote extensively about the dichotomy of love versus fear. His premise is that every single human communication, every thought, and every action we take stems from one of those two root emotions, love or fear.
And money is no different.
Right. When we spend money out of fear, the fear of losing our status, the fear of not having enough for tomorrow, the fear of being judged, it becomes toxic.
Yeah.
The current itself is negatively charged.
But when we spend out of love, trust, and a genuine appreciation for the exchange, we alter the charge of the currency.
We really do.
Which brings up a really uncomfortable question. If making our money happy is simply a choice between operating from love or operating from fear, why do so many of us naturally default to fear?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Even when we are doing okay financially, our baseline setting usually hovers somewhere around mild anxiety to sheer panic when it comes to cash. Where does that come from?
Well, it rarely comes from our current circumstances. The answer almost always lies buried in our past.
Childhood stuff.
Always. Our relationship with money, our deep-seated emotional reactions to it starts forming long before we ever open our first bank account or sign a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Honda uses a universally understood example to illustrate this psychological programming, the board game Monopoly.
Oh boy. Monopoly, the great destroyer of family holidays.
Right. But think about what actually happens when you play Monopoly. The money is literally just flimsy colored paper. It has zero real-world value.
Yeah, it's just a game.
But the emotions it triggers are intensely real. Observe your heart rate when someone lands on your property with a hotel.
Oh, the panic is real.
Or think about the instinct to hoard the orange $500 bills under the board so no one knows how much you have.
I am definitely guilty of that.
Or the sheer, unadulterated relief when you land on free parking. Honda points out that our physiological and emotional reaction to that fake money perfectly mirrors our real-world emotional attachment to actual money.
That makes an uncomfortable amount of sense.
Doesn't it?
If you play a board game in a state of constant defensive anxiety, terrified of rolling the dice because you might land on Boardwalk and go bankrupt, you are probably navigating your real life with that exact same defensive crouch.
Exactly. You're checking your banking app 3 times a day, dreading the mail, bracing for impact.
And Honda traces a lot of this back to what he calls the myth of scarcity.
Yes. The myth of scarcity is the deeply ingrained, often subconscious belief that life is a zero-sum game.
Meaning, if I win, you lose.
Right. We are taught that if someone else gets a piece of the pie, my piece inherently gets smaller. We operate under the delusion that resources, and we conflate money, success, and even happiness as resources, are incredibly limited and constantly running out.
There's a story Honda shares in the book that perfectly captures how early this starts. His family lived in Boston for a year, and his young daughter came home from an American kindergarten and asked him what a specific phrase meant.
Yeah, I remember this.
She had heard the other kids screaming it all day long. The phrase was, "It's not fair."
It's such a profound observation of cultural conditioning.
It really is. We are literally programmed from childhood to only see what we don't have. One kid has a shiny red toy, the other kid looks at their own perfectly fine blue toy, but suddenly it's garbage.
Yeah, they look at their hands and scream, "It's not fair."
And we just carry that exact same emotional software right into adulthood. We just swap the toys. Like, my neighbor got a promotion and a nicer car. It's not fair.
My coworker gets to travel to Europe. It's not fair.
Exactly. We live in a perpetual state of comparative lack.
And that programming is severely deepened by our specific childhood wounds around money. For a lot of people, the trauma wasn't necessarily a massive financial ruin. No, it was subtle, chronic, and constant. It was sitting at the dinner table and hearing your parents constantly say, "We can't afford it," followed by a heavy, exhausted sigh.
Oof, yeah. That sticks with you.
It teaches a child that existence is a burden. Or worse, parents who directly make children feel like they are a financial drain.
Hearing phrases like, "Do you have any idea how much you cost me?"
Yes. Those words leave deep, lasting psychological scars regarding self-worth and money.
Ken Honda is very open about his own childhood trauma, and it is incredibly intense. It really illustrates the darkest possible side of how money impacts a family.
It's a harrowing story. When Honda was just 8 years old, his father, who was a very successful, stoic accountant, came home completely devastated.
He was sobbing, right?
Yeah, he was crying. which young Ken had never seen before.
Yeah.
It turned out one of his father's clients had come to him, begging for a desperate immediate loan.
And his father said no.
He denied the loan. Not because he was cruel or didn't want to help, but because he knew the man was dangerously involved with loan sharks. He wanted to wait, figure out a legal strategy, and structure the help so the loan sharks wouldn't just confiscate the cash immediately.
So he was trying to be responsible.
He was. But before he could implement a plan, the client went home in despair and committed a family murder-suicide.
Oh my God. It is just an unspeakably tragic event.
Horrific.
And you have to imagine the impact of that on an 8-year-old boy. For young Ken Honda, that instantly shattered any innocent mathematical view of money. It taught him in the most brutal way possible that money had dark life-or-death consequences. It plunged his father into a deep, agonizing depression, and it fundamentally altered how Honda viewed wealth, responsibility, and guilt for decades.
Right. And to heal from these kinds of deep-seated fears, whether they are acute and tragic like Honda's, or just the chronic grinding stress of growing up in a paycheck-to-paycheck household, we have to confront what Honda calls our money blueprint.
The money blueprint, what is that exactly?
It's this invisible set of subconscious rules we absorb from our parents and even our grandparents about how money works, what it means about our character, and how we're supposed to interact with it.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the listener right now? If you are listening to this and wondering why you can't seem to break a certain financial habit, this is why.
Exactly.
Your anxiety about your savings account might not actually be your anxiety. It might belong to your grandfather.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It's like trying to run an iPhone 15 on an operating system built in 1985 by a stressed-out grandparent who just lived through a recession. Of course the apps keep crashing.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. You're trying to build modern, joyful wealth using a blueprint that was drafted purely for panic survival. This is why tracing your family history regarding money is crucial.
Like, did a grandparent go bankrupt during the Depression?
Right. That trauma alters their parenting, which creates a generational panic about saving every single penny, which is then passed down to you. Or did your parents fight bitterly over credit card debt behind closed doors?
You definitely absorb that tension.
You do. Understanding the historical emotional context of your money blueprint is the absolute first step to erasing it. You have to clearly recognize the old inherited lines before you can draw a new, healthier blueprint for yourself.
And it's fascinating because until we do that introspective work and draw that new blueprint, our broken ones are going to dictate everything we do. They silently dictate why we desperately want money and how we handle it once we get it.
Which leads us into these highly specific, often destructive behavioral patterns.
Right. So to untangle these patterns, Honda suggests we first step back and look at what money actually does in society. He breaks money down into 3 core functions.
Let's hear them.
The first is the function of exchange. This is basic survival. We trade money for food, shelter, and clothing.
Makes sense.
The second is the function of saving. This is a bit more psychological. It's about preserving the value of our life's effort. If you pour your sweat and tears into working hard for a month, saving the money from that labor makes you feel like your effort has lasting, tangible value.
Okay, and the third?
The third is the function of growth.
Yeah.
This is the core of modern capitalism, investing money so it generates interest, builds upon itself, and grows autonomously.
Okay, so those are the mechanical functions of money, but the functions are very different from the deeply emotional reasons we chase it.
True.
Honda identifies 6 emotional motivations for wanting wealth. Number 1 is straightforward, to maintain a basic standard of living. Just surviving.
Right, covering the rent.
Yeah. But from number 2 onward, it gets intensely psychological. Number 2 is to gain power and control over others.
Yikes.
Number 3 is to get back at others. Seeking revenge or status to prove the doubters, the exes, or the critical parents wrong.
Oh, the spite money.
The spite money. Then there's number 4, to find freedom. This is the widespread belief that if we just have enough cash, we can buy our way out of all our problems, obligations, and pain.
Which never really works out.
It rarely does. Number 5 is to gain love and attention. This is flaunting wealth, buying the luxury cars, the designer clothes, subconsciously hoping it will attract admiration and affection.
That was the last one.
Number 6, to express love and appreciation.
It's incredible how quickly those middle motivations turn toxic. Seeking money for power, revenge, or to buy love seems to almost always backfire spectacularly. Think about someone whose entire drive for wealth is to prove their high school bullies wrong. They make millions, they buy the mansion. But wealth accumulated with that aggressive negative energy attracts sycophants, not real friends.
Because the foundation is built on insecurity.
Right. It leaves the person deeply paranoid, isolated, and constantly afraid of losing the very money they think is keeping everyone around them.
However, seeking money to express love, to support your family without stress, to donate to causes that move you, to treat your friends to beautiful experiences, that is the ultimate happy money generator.
The intention changes everything.
It really does. The intention behind the accumulation literally changes the energy of the money itself, and it changes the psychological state of the person holding it.
And depending on which of those inherited blueprints and motivations drives us, we develop specific personality types around our finances. Honda calls these money EQ personality types.
GQ meaning emotional quotient.
Yes. He outlines several of these, and honestly, reading through them is like looking in a very uncomfortable mirror. Let's talk about the compulsive saver first, because I think I know a lot of people in this category.
We all do.
These are people who make a great income, but are terrified to buy a $4 coffee.
The compulsive saver is driven entirely by anxiety. They save obsessively because they view money strictly as a shield against a terrifying, unpredictable world.
It's like they're building a fortress.
Yeah. And the tragedy of the compulsive saver is that they never actually enjoy the fruits of their labor. Spending a single dime feels like a direct threat to their survival.
So they just hoard it.
They could have millions in the bank, but they still buy the cheapest, lowest quality items because the act of spending causes them physical distress.
Wait, isn't being a compulsive saver generally seen as responsible? Society practically hands out medals to compulsive savers. We are told our whole lives to max out our 401ks, clip coupons, live below our means. Why is Honda categorizing this as a negative emotional trait?
That's a vital distinction between action and emotion. Saving money is an excellent money IQ practice. It's smart financial mechanics. But the compulsive saver is doing it entirely out of fear.
Okay.
If you are saving money while joyfully imagining the fun ways you will spend it in retirement, the trips you'll take with your spouse, the grandkids you'll spoil, the hobbies you'll fund, that is healthy. The energy is positive.
But if you're saving out of panic...
Right. If you are saving just waiting for the sky to fall, the anxiety never goes away. Whether you have $10,000 or $10 million in the bank, you will still feel terrified of losing it. You essentially become a prisoner of your own safety net.
That makes total sense. It's the difference between building a nest and building a bunker.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Now, the polar opposite of that is the compulsive spender.
Yes. The compulsive spender uses money to regulate their emotions. They spend to feel a fleeting sense of control or to temporarily alleviate deep-seated low self-esteem.
Retail therapy.
Exactly. They get a brief dopamine rush from the clerk bowing to them or handing them a shiny branded shopping bag, but that high fades before they even get to their car.
And what's wild is that compulsive spenders are very often raised by compulsive savers.
Because it's a rebellion.
Right. If you grew up in a household where every penny was squeezed and money was a source of constant restriction and anxiety, the moment you get your own money, you spend it wildly as a subconscious rebellion against that childhood restriction. You are trying to buy the freedom you never felt.
Spot on. Then you have the compulsive moneymaker. This is the classic workaholic whose entire self-worth is tied to their wealth accumulation.
They seek the world's approval strictly through their bank balance.
Yeah, if their net worth drops, their self-esteem plummets. And on the flip side of the workaholic, you have the indifferent.
Who are they?
This personality type completely ignores money. Often these are people who are naturally well off. Maybe they inherited wealth or have a high-earning spouse, so they haven't been forced to worry.
Must be nice.
Well, sure, until a crisis hits. They ignore the mechanics of money entirely until a major life crisis hits. A divorce, a death, a medical emergency,
Wow.
And they're completely paralyzed because they have no idea how to manage their affairs.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's dangerous. We also have the hippie who believes money is inherently evil and avoids it as a matter of moral superiority. They usually struggle constantly but frame it as a noble sacrifice. And finally, Honda lists the hybrids. You have the gambler who swings wildly between extreme making and extreme losing just for the adrenaline thrill.
The saver splurger, who lives like an ascetic monk for 6 months and then blows their entire savings in one chaotic weekend.
And the worrier, who is just a chaotic mix of saving, spending, and making, but spends every single waking hour paralyzed by financial dread, regardless of what they are doing.
Identifying which of these categories you fall into is the first step in realizing that your money problems aren't actually math problems. They are emotional regulation problems.
So, if we've done the hard work, we've diagnosed our personality flaws, and we realize we're lugging around all this inherited emotional baggage from our grandparents, how do we actually fix it?
Right. How do we rewire the system?
Exactly. Honda says the goal is to become what he calls the happy little millionaire, which requires achieving a perfect balance between money IQ and money EQ.
Let's define those clearly. Money IQ is your financial intelligence. It's the practical mathematical mechanics of wealth. Making money, spending it wisely, protecting it from loss, and increasing it through investments.
Basically everything you learn in business school or from reading standard financial blogs.
Yes. But money EQ is your emotional intelligence regarding your finances. This is the stuff they completely ignore in school. Money EQ is composed of 4 pillars: receiving, enjoying, trusting, and sharing.
Okay, so if we connect this to the bigger picture, the central thesis here is that you can have a genius level money IQ, you can have a Harvard MBA, deeply understand complex market derivatives, and know exactly how to play the stock market to maximize returns. But if your money EQ is low, you will ultimately lose your fortune.
Absolutely.
Wait, how, if you know the math, how do you lose the money?
Because humans aren't algorithms. If your EQ is low, your unresolved emotional trauma will cause you to self-sabotage. You might make millions, but your deep-seated fear will cause you to make a paranoid, irrational investment that wipes you out.
Oh, I see.
Or your compulsion to prove your worth will lead you to spend it all on depreciating assets just to impress people. Or perhaps most tragically, you will keep the money but succumb to stress-induced illness or destroy all the relationships around you because of your greed. Wealth without EQ is just a very well-funded disaster.
To really illustrate what high money EQ looks like in the real world, Honda introduces us to his mentor, a man named Wahei Takeda. He was widely known as the Warren Buffett of Japan.
This guy is absolutely fascinating.
He really is. He was a wildly successful investor and the owner of a massive, extremely profitable candy company. But he didn't run his factories like a typical ruthless capitalist. He actually had recordings of local children singing the word arigato, which means thank you in Japanese, playing continuously on a loop inside his factories.
To a Western business executive, that sounds incredibly eccentric, maybe even foolish, but it speaks to Takeda's profound understanding of the energy of money and production.
Yeah, he deeply believed that the children's voices infused the physical candy and the environment of the workers with positive, grateful energy. It was about cultivating an atmosphere of abundance and appreciation. Takeda was a master of money EQ.
Let's break down those 4 components of that emotional intelligence because they are harder to master than they sound. First is receiving.
You would think receiving money is easy, but a happy millionaire allows themselves to accept gifts, compliments, and financial opportunities without guilt. So many of us instinctively reject abundance.
We really do. If someone offers to buy us dinner, we fight them over the check because we feel unworthy or we don't want to owe them.
Exactly. When you do that, you are literally blocking the flow of abundance. You are telling the universe, no thank you, I am not comfortable receiving.
The second pillar is enjoying. This is pure, unadulterated Zen. It means being fully in the present moment to actually experience your wealth.
Right. If you paid $10,000 for a luxury family vacation, but you spend the entire week on the beach stressing over work emails and worrying about the cost of the hotel, you aren't enjoying your money.
Not at all. You have just paid a massive premium to be stressed out in a prettier location. High EQ means giving yourself permission to enjoy what you have earned.
The third pillar is trusting, which we will touch on more in a bit, but it's essentially trusting that the flow will continue. And the fourth is sharing.
High EQ means deeply understanding that wealth is meant to circulate. It's not meant to be hoarded in a dragon's lair.
Honda tells an amazing story in the book about sharing that blew my mind. There was an anonymous wealthy customer who frequented a sushi restaurant. He loved the joyful, positive attitude of the young sushi chef who worked there.
I love this story.
One day, this customer tipped the young chef $500,000. Not because he owed him, but simply to help the kid start his own restaurant.
That is the absolute epitome of sharing happy money. That anonymous customer wasn't looking for an ROI, a return on investment. He was investing his love, his belief and his appreciation into someone else's potential. Imagine the kind of energetic joy that creates for both the giver and the receiver.
But speaking of Wahei Takeda, here's where it gets really interesting. There is another story about him that cements how this EQ works in practice. A man came to Takeda completely desperate. He was drowning in $3 million of debt, totally out of options, and he begged Takeda for a bailout loan.
And Takeda actually agreed to give him the money, but on one highly specific, very strange condition. The man had to say arigato, or thank you, 100,000 times before he would write the check.
It sounds like a punishment out of a fairy tale.
It really does. But the man is desperate, so he agrees. He starts saying thank you constantly. He murmurs it while walking down the street while eating, every minute of the day.
And the punchline is, by the time he finally finished saying arigato 100,000 times over the course of several months, his life had completely changed. He didn't even need the loan from Takeda anymore.
Which is a brilliant psychological intervention by Takeda. It wasn't about the magic of the word itself. The repetitive act of verbally expressing gratitude fundamentally shifted the man's neurochemistry.
How so?
By forcing his brain to constantly frame his reality around thank you, he completely disrupted his chronic state of fear, panic, and scarcity. When your brain is anchored in gratitude, you physically cannot sustain panic. His energy changed. Because he was no longer operating from a place of desperate terror, he became more creative. He spotted business opportunities he had previously missed. He became more proactive, more magnetic to clients. He ended up generating the wealth to pay off the debt himself, and eventually became a millionaire in his own right.
It's incredible. And it perfectly illustrates the necessary relationship between the two intelligences. Think of money IQ as the massive, powerful engine of a sports car. And think of money EQ as the steering wheel.
That's a great visual.
Having a huge, powerful engine is great, but if you don't have a steering wheel, that power doesn't help you. It just guarantees you will end up in a much faster, much more destructive crash. You absolutely need the emotional steering wheel to guide the financial engine safely to a joyful destination.
And when you have both of those, when your engine is running and your steering is sound, you begin to master what Honda calls the flow. Practicing gratitude, improving your EQ, fundamentally alters the physics of how money moves in and out of your life.
Let's define the physics of this flow, because Honda distinguishes between two states of wealth, stock and flow.
Right. Stock is your accumulated assets. It's the number sitting in your savings account, the equity in your real estate, your retirement portfolio.
And flow is the active movement. It's your income coming in and your expenses going out every single month.
Honda uses a really powerful natural metaphor to explain how these interact. True financial abundance is like a large, vibrant lake. It is constantly fed by a fresh, rushing stream of water, which is your income, and it also flows out into a river, which is your spending and sharing.
Because the water is moving, it is crisp, clear, and it supports a thriving ecosystem of life.
Exactly. But if you become obsessed with stock at the expense of flow, meaning you hoard money and refuse to let it circulate, you effectively dam up the river. Your wealth becomes a stagnant pond.
It's the Ebenezer Scrooge phenomenon. Before the ghosts show up, Scrooge is the ultimate example of a stagnant pond. He had literal vaults of money, massive stock,
Right.
but he had zero flow.
Yep, completely dammed up.
He refused to spend it on his own comfort. He refused to pay his employee Bob Cratchit a living wage. He wouldn't donate to the poor. He just sat on his hoard. And what happens to a pond when the water stops flowing? It gets murky, it breathes toxins, and all the life in it dies. Scrooge's entire soul was a toxic, stagnant pond.
To keep your lake fresh and vibrant, you have to ensure the stream keeps feeding it. And to do that, you have to become a money magnet.
A money magnet, okay.
This requires accepting a premise that is very difficult. For people who hold moral judgments about wealth, money itself is a completely neutral force.
Like gravity.
Yes. It is much like gravity.
Yeah.
Gravity doesn't have a moral compass. It doesn't care if you were a saint or a criminal. If you drop an apple, it falls at the exact same rate. Money is attracted to magnetic energy. It naturally flows toward people who love what they do, who provide exceptional service, who are deeply engaged with their community, and who emit a powerful, positive, expansive energy.
Okay, but how does the theory account for the obvious exceptions? Because if money is naturally attracted to positive, loving, generous energy, why are there so many incredibly rich, absolutely terrible people in the world?
That's a fair question.
We all know of corrupt, ruthless billionaires who exploit people and destroy environments. How do they have so much money if they aren't emitting positive energy?
It's a vital question, and the answer goes back to the absolute neutrality of money. Money responds to the strength of the magnet, not the morality of the magnet.
Okay, strength over morality.
Right. Corrupt, greedy, or ruthless people can cultivate a massive, obsessive, razor-focused desire for money. They create a very strong, albeit dark, magnetic pull, so the money naturally flows to them.
Ah, I see.
However, we have to look at the quality of the wealth they hold, because their internal container is built entirely on fear, greed, and exploitation, that money becomes highly toxic.
So they have unhappy money.
Completely unhappy money. They live in constant, agonizing terror of losing it. They are profoundly paranoid. They cannot trust their friends, their spouses, or their business partners. So yes, they have a massive amount of money, but they are emotionally imprisoned. They are not free.
That is a fascinating distinction. They have the stock, but the water is poisoned. And this ties perfectly into Honda's concept of fast money versus slow money.
Fast money is the lottery winner who gets a massive windfall, or the flashy tech bro who makes a killing on a risky crypto bet overnight.
Right. But because they haven't built a healthy internal container or developed the emotional maturity and EQ to handle that massive influx of flow, they almost always lose it just as fast. It breaks their container.
Exactly. Slow money, on the other hand, is the humble local dry cleaner. They charge a fair price, they provide an excellent, reliable service every single day, they greet their customers with genuine warmth, and they build immense trust within their community over decades.
Over time, that steady, reliable service builds lasting, unbreakable generational wealth. It is a slow, steady, continuous stream feeding a healthy lake.
But a lot of us actively block our own streams. Honda says that to increase your healthy flow, you have to truly value your own stream. You must properly price your services and trust the universe to provide the clients.
I know so many freelancers, artists, and small business owners who struggle intensely with this. They underprice their work out of sheer panic that if they charge what they are worth, everyone will abandon them.
Underpricing yourself is a manifestation of the scarcity myth. Setting higher, appropriate prices sends a powerful psychological signal of self-worth, both to yourself and to the market.
But won't you lose clients?
Yes, when you raise your prices, you might lose some of the bargain-hunting, difficult clients. But by holding your boundary, you open up the space to attract clients who truly respect and value your work. You fundamentally change the quality of your flow from anxious to appreciative.
But to get to that point of confidence, you have to clear the emotional debris out of your stream. Honda identifies 5 specific negative emotions that act as literal dams, locking the flow of abundance into your life.
Anxiety, fear, doubt, guilt, and self-neglect.
And it's important to understand how these emotions physically block money. It's not magical thinking. Let's take guilt and self-neglect, for example.
Okay.
If you harbor deep guilt about making more money than your parents did, or if you chronically neglect your own well-being to please everyone else, you operate from a state of exhaustion and low self-worth.
In the real world, this translates to tangible financial losses.
Yeah.
You don't pitch the big client because you subconsciously feel you don't deserve the account. You accept a lowball salary offer without negotiating.
You literally put up behavioral walls that stop happy money from reaching you because your internal operating system refuses to process it.
Which brings us from the grand theory of energy and flow down into the actual daily practice. How do we tear down those dams? How do we rewire the 1985 operating system?
Honda outlines 5 actionable steps to happy money, and they really offer a fascinating glimpse into a better way of living. Step 1 is the prerequisite for everything else. Shift out of the scarcity mindset.
You have to actively, daily, stop believing the pie is shrinking. You have to look for evidence of abundance and believe there's enough out there for everyone.
Step 2 is often the hardest. Forgive and heal your money wounds. This primarily means forgiving your parents.
Oof, yeah, that's a tough one.
It is. You have to look back at the financial mistakes they made or the stress they projected onto you and realize they were just operating out of their own fear. They were victims of their own broken blueprints. Forgiving them isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about releasing the trapped, resentful energy from your own body so you can move forward.
Step 3 is to discover your gifts and get into the flow. Find the thing you love doing so much that it feels like play, whether that's baking, coding, writing, or organizing, and find a way to serve others with it.
When you work from a place of joy, the money that follows naturally becomes happy money. Step 4 is to trust life. This sounds a bit esoteric, but it's deeply practical psychology.
Trust and fear cannot simultaneously occupy the same space in your mind. When you cultivate a deep trust that you will ultimately be okay, that new opportunities will present themselves even if one fails, the paralyzing fear evaporates.
And step 5 is the Wahe Takeda special, say arigato all the time. Cultivate a relentless habit of gratitude. Say thank you genuinely when money comes into your life, whether it's a big paycheck or finding a quarter on the sidewalk.
And crucially, say thank you when money goes out. When you pay your rent, internally bless the landlord. When you buy groceries, bless the cashier. You are continuously keeping the energy positive.
As you implement these 5 steps, Honda says you have to do the introspective work to find your right container size.
Container size. This is key.
This means being brutally honest with yourself about how much money you actually need to be happy, rather than what society tells you to want. Some people have a container size of $80,000 a year. That funds their hobbies, keeps their family safe, and lets them sleep peacefully.
Right. And if that person suddenly tries to scale a startup and earn $5 million a year, the pressure, the legal liabilities, and the massive responsibilities will completely shatter their container and ruin their life.
Finding your container size is the antidote to the endless capitalist treadmill. Honda illustrates this beautifully when he talks about his trip to Bhutan.
Oh, the Bhutan trip.
Yeah, Bhutan is famously known as one of the happiest nations on Earth. They actually measure gross national happiness instead of just GDP.
That is amazing.
Honda went there expecting to see people jumping for joy in the streets, grinning ear to ear. But what he found was very different. It was a quiet, deep-rooted contentment.
It wasn't the Western, flashy, manic, look at me, I have a bigger house than my brother kind of happiness.
Exactly. It was a society composed of people who knew exactly what their container size was, and they were perfectly peacefully satisfied when it was full.
It really makes you wonder about the future of wealth, especially where we are heading right now as a global society.
Honda touches on this, discussing how we are currently in the midst of rapid technological advancement.
Yeah, as AI, automation, and advanced technology theoretically make basic human needs like food production, energy, and education significantly cheaper and more universally accessible, we could slowly be moving toward a society that is finally free from the primal fear of lacking money.
It is a profound philosophical shift. The ultimate goal of Honda's work isn't just to help you get richer, it's to help you plan your psychological exit from the competitive money game altogether.
This raises an important question. What would our culture look like if we collectively stopped using money as the sole yardstick for human value?
What if we stopped equating our internal self-worth with our external net worth, and instead start using money strictly as a neutral conduit for love, appreciation, and shared community experiences?
And the beauty of this is that you don't need to wait for a utopian future, and you don't need to move to a cabin in the woods and grow your own organic carrots to opt out of the money game today.
No, it's an internal, immediate shift. It's sitting at your kitchen table, looking at your current bank account, looking around your living room, and consciously deciding to say, this is enough to buy happiness today. I have enough.
That realization is why Happy Money is fundamentally not a traditional financial literacy book. If you pick up this book hoping for a strategic guide on how to diversify your ETF portfolio or how to leverage real estate debt, you are going to be entirely missing the point.
It is a profound psychological and spiritual reset.
It really is the perfect exploration for anyone who feels completely paralyzed by financial anxiety, regardless of their income bracket.
It's for the couples who find themselves constantly fighting over the household budget and tearing their relationship apart over spreadsheets.
And it's especially for the highly successful professionals who are making a ton of money, who hit all their financial goals, but still feel incredibly empty, exhausted, and isolated at the end of the day.
I want to leave you with a final thought to really mull over as you go about your week. Picture yourself lying on your deathbed at the very end of your journey. In those final moments, you are absolutely not going to ask someone to pull up your banking app so you can check your high-yield savings balance one last time.
No, definitely not.
You are going to look at the people standing around you. You are going to review the memories you made. The true lasting value of wealth is entirely in the experiences and the security it facilitates.
So use your wealth to create joy. Spend your happy money on creating lasting, beautiful memories with the people you love, because ultimately the energy of those memories is the only true currency you get to keep.
I couldn't agree more. If you want to make sure the money in your wallet is smiling, it has to start with a grateful heart. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Make sure to subscribe to the Book Nook so you never miss a discussion.
And we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us which book you'd like us to explore next. We read every single one.